mixed martial arts. Mixed martial arts. How do we like our martial arts? At the KFC Young Center! Sorry, I am not Casey Leiden. I did the best I could. But welcome, everybody, to the UFC Louisville preview show here on MMAfighting.com. Yes, UFC out of the Apex, back on the road. And they're in Louisville, Kentucky. And boy, oh boy, are the stakes high in Louisville, Kentucky for this one. We're here to talk about this and much more. I am Mike Heck. And look at the fellas here. We got the whole crew. We got Mr. Hot Take, Mr. No Gray Area himself, the Baron of Boop, Jed Meshew, and the Prince of Positivity, and my best friend, Alexander Kaylee, with the MMA Fighting t-shirt. Gentlemen, how are we feeling today?
MMA Fighting. I work for MMA Fighting. I wear the shirt every day, like when I go out and do stuff, just so people know.
I mean, I do that. Are you saying that that's not normal behavior?
No, I was waiting for you to chime in and say I also do this, which you did. This has been a great exchange.
How many MMA Fighting t-shirts do you both have?
I just wear the same one over and over again and never wash it.
You have two?
I sneakily got a second way back in the day when Danny Segura still worked with us and was living in New York and like going into the office. One day he hit me up and was like, "Hey, I'm about to leave the office." And this is obviously like pre-COVID. There's a box of shirts. And he's like, "You want one?" I was like, "Yes, ship it to me." So I got a second one. I think I got the first one legitimately when we did the meetup in 2016. So yeah.
I'm just a man without an MMA Fighting shirt, and it is what it is. But gentlemen, we're coming off of UFC 302, a very tough hang, a sloggy slog with a tremendous main event and a couple of cool finishes. And now we head to Louisville. And Jed, we discussed this a little bit on BTL yesterday. Cards like this ain't getting any Michelin stars. So if we're not going Michelin stars, there's only one way to go. We're going to the fart scale. You were a little torn. You weren't really sure where you were going. So let's reveal, what is the quote-unquote fart score for UFC Louisville? 2.5. Explain yourself.
2.5 farts. So if you're new here and you don't know what the fart system is, it stands for Fights Above Replacement Tussles. And this is a system myself and Shaheen Al-Shadi have pioneered to kind of just put fight cards in relation to other fight cards based on, the principles of war or whatever from baseball. And it's what fights are above average. And this card is pretty low on fights that are above average. And so there's a little bit of artistry, it's a little leaning, but baseline, any fighters ranked in the UFC rankings, they get a fart, they get a half a fart each. So our main event, that's one full fart. I'm not enthused, frankly, by Jared Cannonier versus Nassourdine Imavov and the viewing potential of it, but that is a fight with clear stakes between top talent. So it's above a replacement fight. Our second fart goes to the Thiago Moises Ludovic Klein fight. Neither of these dudes are ranked, but they're both on the fringes of rank. They're top 25 dudes, and they're just good fighters. I am very enthused to watch this fight. So I give that a second one. And then, as we were talking about in the green room beforehand, boys, do you know who else happens to be ranked on this fight card? There are 3 ranked fighters on this card. Jared Cannonier, Nassourdine Imavov, and Dominick Reyes somehow has a UFC ranking despite losing 4 in a row, and he hasn't won a fight this decade. He is hanging on to the number 15 for reasons that don't quite make sense, but by definition meant that I had to give this 2.5. I briefly toyed with the idea of bumping it to a full 3, just because Raul Rosas Jr. is certainly a popular fighter, but I don't ultimately think that what he is doing right now matters all that much. It is just being active. I don't think him fighting Ricky Turcios is substantially better than just kind of any other regular fight. So 2.5 farts, it's one of the lows of the year. I think it ties the low, or maybe the low is 3. It's either 2.5 or 3. This is not the best fight card of all time.
Okay, for a different kind of rating, what's the gymnastics scale for this one?
First, I feel like the FAR system should use our rankings, don't you think? Like, because by our rankings,
No, I'm being generous.
You're being very generous.
I'm being generous.
Yeah. By our rankings, it's just Cannonier and Imavov. We have Cannonier at 5, we have Imavov at 11. We certainly do not have Dominick Reyes ranked. I'm trying to think why I would even have him in my own personal rankings, because I just want to, for reference for people, Ryan Spann is not ranked, and the last time Dominick Reyes fought, Ryan Spann knocked his head off. So that's weird. On the other hand, Ryan Spann also has not got a win since beating Dominick Reyes, and so I guess they had to drop him and then put Dominick Reyes back in. It doesn't make sense. I shouldn't try and figure this out. I don't know why I'm trying to figure this out. It doesn't make sense. I think, frighteningly enough, I do have Dominick Reyes like really close to the top 15. I shouldn't hate him. You know what? I shouldn't hate in the UFC rankings panel. They've got a hard job, I guess.
But they're all idiots. Dana told us. Because they all have Islam as the number one pound for pound. So they're all morons.
They're morons. We're morons. Everyone knows Islam number one is a moron. Because who would bill Islam as the number one pound for pound fighter in the world? No one would promote that, right? Surely that's not something a company itself would do. Secondly, Mike, I put up a poll. I don't know if you're looking at the YouTube now. I'm supposed to be the Prince of Positivity, but the narratives in this going into this card are so lacking, are so light in importance for anyone but the fighters themselves, which is fine. Again, for all these fighters, the most important fight of their lives, that's fine. Then I just made a poll about polls. My poll is, what should today's poll be about? Who wins the main event? Who has the most to gain Saturday? What is the sleeper fight? How do you rate UFC Louisville? So it's very meta. I'm doing a very meta thing here, and I may not even actually make a second poll. I'm just curious what people think the poll should be. That's where we are with UFC Louisville. That's how low wattage this card is. It's like, well, here's the thing. Here's my bold statement. Here's my headline. Here's our headline for our post right here, Mike. UFC Louisville could end up, if we're just talking about like in-cage action, being more entertaining than UFC 302. That's not a super high bar.
That wouldn't be that hard.
No, UFC 302. UFC 302 on paper already didn't look like the most exciting card, and then it like played out even worse than I think our most optimistic projections, our least optimistic projections. So there we go. If you want Prince of Positivity, this card I think has several fights that could be back and forth, action packed. I'm thinking at least off the top of my head, like 5 or 6. I think it'd be worth watching. So I gave 302 a pretty high rating just because it's a pay-per-view. So I'll give this like a 7. Let's settle on a hard 7, which again, that's assuming we get 3 or 4 really competitive fights and some nice highlights, and most importantly, a good main event. Which Imavov and Cannonier, their last 2 main events were really good. So we're guaranteed an exciting main event, right, Mike?
I'm with you both. This will be a fun watch. If you sit back and you watch this card from the first fight to the last fight, I think you're going to have a good time. By Tuesday, we will not speak word one about this card. We will be so far past it, it's not even funny. There'll be so many other things to discuss. And the stakes, I like having stakes in fights. I see Joseph Boza in there saying that the winner could get a title shot. I think that is just an awful take. Jared Cannonier has not been mentioned in the middleweight conversation for like 2 years. Even when he was active and winning, no one was discussing him in this conversation. He's so far out of the title conversation in the way the UFC views things. It's not even funny. And Nassourdine Imavov is in a very similar situation. Both these guys at worst, at best, are 2 wins away. They're 2 wins away, and they have to be, whoever wins this fight has to be super impressive. I'm going to throw a little take right here. The fight on this card with the most actual stakes on it is Andrea Lee versus Montana De La Rosa, because they are fighting for their jobs and they're fighting for their roster spot. Other than that, whoever loses is probably out of the UFC. Other than that, this is going to be a fun watch, but there's just nothing of like aftermath significance really to this at all. Like, even if Cannonier wins, it'll be like a good win, but who's he going to fight? It's not going to fight Hamzat. Sean Strickland's not going to fight him again. It's just crazy. it's just one of those things. Cannonier is just kind of that guy. He's almost Curtis Blades-esque at this point. Although, unlike Curtis Blades, he's actually gotten his shot at the title, and it was one of the worst title fights in UFC history. So he's in a tough spot.
I'm sorry to say that. I also forgot Lee and De La Rosa is a rematch.
It is
2019. I totally did not recall.
How did you forget? How
I don't.
I'm
Jed, I'm embarrassed. I'm embarrassed, but I want the people to know that I did forget. It is a rematch, and yeah, this time with a lot on the line, as Mike suggests. Yeah, I don't know if I can argue against that. I'm trying to look at the other fights here. Dominick Reyes, you don't think he's fighting for his job? No, probably not.
Yeah, but Dustin
I think he's
Jacoby
fighting.
not.
I think Dominick Reyes is fighting for his career.
He's top 15, so I mean, I don't know what you guys are talking about.
This will be 5 in a row. Not a lot of people get a chance for 6 in a row.
Tony Ferguson, Sam Alvey.
Most of those had Sam Alvey for different reasons.
It's a short list. Yeah. That's the point.
And that's Mike. I agree with you. It's like the FART system is very critical of this on paper because of the stakes. I actually do think that this won't be a bad watch. Most of these are competitively billed. You can see that in the betting lines. There aren't that many. Brad Katona is the biggest favorite on the card. And like, it's also Brad Katona, so he could absolutely get upset because that's a thing that might very well happen.
Certainly.
So like, these are competitive fights. And if you're watching and you don't really care, this is fast food MMA for you, whatever it is, just food, you're probably going to enjoy it well enough. Like, it will be fine. It'll hit the spot. You got nothing else going on Saturday, but these are as close to meaningless as you can be. Certainly each individual fighter has meaning in these fights for them, but in the grand tapestry of MMA, these are not even footnotes of relevance for the most part.
Well, let's talk about this main event. Jed, I know how excited you are to talk about Jared Cannonier. You, for a year until this fight card came to be, and you actually forgot that these guys are even fighting in a main event until like a week and a half ago.
I think I blocked it out. I think I was like,
the man who shall not be named, Jared Cannonier taking on Nassourdine Imavov. Now I'm looking at this from a betting perspective. Jared Cannonier is coming off of maybe the best performance of his career. Nassourdine Imavov bouncing back, getting a victory in his most recent fight. But Nassourdine Imavov is the favorite here, Jed. Are you surprised by this? Like, I understand Cannonier's 40 and he's coming off of an injury. It takes a little bit longer to heal as a 40-year-old. I can attest to this. Are you surprised Imavov is the favorite here?
No, because of that, right? Like, it's Cannonier's coming off an injury, been out of the cage for a while. People just kind of forgot. Like, also the way the betting market works, it would not shock me if people were like, the last time Jared Cannonier fought, it was losing to Israel Adesanya, because it's not like the Strickland or Vettori fights were especially memorable. Certainly the Strickland fight wasn't. The Vettori fight was a little bit better. But like, he's 40 years old. He is smaller. He is injured or coming off an injury, been out. So like, it makes sense. And it's not like Imavov is a massive favorite. Like, the lines currently have him -125 +105. Things been close to a pick 'em. And I think that's about right. Like, we'll get to our picks, but I'm probably going to side with Imavov just for all the reasons that we've sort of covered. But it wouldn't shock me if, Imavov is not an amazing fighter. And at his peak, Jared Cannonier certainly has been better. So if he's still got a little juice left in the tank, maybe, but I think it's justifiable for him to be a slight underdog.
Are you surprised by that, AK? That Cannonier, guy who fought for the belt, 2 wins in a row, 4 out of his last 5, including the spectacular performance against Marvin Vettori, where he broke all kinds of records. Are you surprised Imavov's entering as the slight favorite here?
I mean, it's so slight. I'm looking at DraftKings right now. Imavov -125, Cannonier just barely plus money, like +105. And in this situation, I think they're just looking at their ages. I think they're looking at their current form. I think when it's this close, you're like the odds makers are always going to tilt towards, and probably people putting money down are going to tilt towards the younger fighter, which makes sense. I imagine that's why a lot of people are probably picking Imavov to win this fight. But there's no way anyone can definitively say Imavov is an advantage here. Like, I think he's looked really good, especially against Delite. I thought it was a really good performance. But I thought Cannonier looked really good against Vettori too. It was kind of a fun little sloppy fight at times. And he's like, I think he's impressed, talking about Cannonier, I think he's impressed against a higher caliber of competition. Not that the guys that Imavov's beat aren't good, but again, there was a Strickland fight, which I will never watch again, but was officially a win. Some people still look back and are called a robbery. It was a very, very close fight. I don't think you can say robbery either way. If you think Strickland won, I certainly don't blame you. But yeah, sometimes I lean towards the younger guy. Sometimes I lean towards experience and quality of competition. In this case, we've got Cannonier, who's just really proven that he can gut out 5-round wins, which may not always be great viewing, but it's why he's still pretty consensus top 5. I think top 5 in our rankings, top 5 in the UFC. Why he keeps getting main events. So I'm tilting the other way. I mean, I know we're not giving our picks quite yet, but I am leaning a little bit towards Cannonier. So, but the odds don't surprise me at all. You're going with the younger guy. You're going with the fresher challenger. It's just a little more fun. It's a little more fun to bet on the guy who hasn't fought for a UFC title yet.
So when I mentioned the stakes, Jed, I felt like no matter what happens, either guy's 2 wins away at best from getting to a title fight. It could even be longer for Cannonier because, like I said, he got his opportunity, and half the International Fight Week crowd left the arena before the fight even got to the 3rd round. So what are these guys fighting for, Jed? Like, seriously, like, are they just fighting to hold their ranking spot? What is the actual finish line here on Saturday night for whoever wins this fight? Like, where do they go?
So I do think that this is fighting for a title eliminator, because I do think that either man is 2 wins away. I know that if Cannonier wins, he's going to come out and say, I want to fight for the title, because he's basically said that every time. He has won since the Izzy fight. Like, I know I can do better. I want to fight for the title. I'll fight whoever gets me there. I want to do that. And, I respect that he has a mission and he's trying to effectuate that. Maybe could go about it better, but whatever. Like, he's won 3 in a row, 2 in a row, 3 in a row now. This will be a win that for him is definitionally defending ranking, but he beats Imavov after he's beaten Marvin Vettori, after he's beaten Sean Strickland. He's got a win over the former champ Sean Strickland now. He kind of is in that spot where, all right, I've got enough wins together. I get to demand a title eliminator. I know the middleweight picture is a little muddied, but it will come. Maybe it comes at the end of the year. I honestly think there is a non-zero chance a fight with Sean Strickland is on the line, because I know Sean Strickland is saying, I will sit and wait. If Khamzat Chimaev wins, he can't really sit and wait anymore. Like, I guess theoretically he could, but if Khamzat Chimaev beats Robert Whittaker, we are all under the impression he will be challenging the winner of the DDP Izzy fight. I think that's almost carved in stone at this moment in time. And at that point, then Strickland probably will need to fight somebody, and running it back with Cannonier in a no doubt about it title eliminator, I think is reasonable. If Nassourdine Imavov wins, this is the biggest one of his career. Jared Cannonier is a top 5 ranked middleweight in the UFC's rankings. I think he's outside in ours, but I'm honestly not sure. I'd have to look that up. And so this will get him a spot to, hey, I just beat a top 5 guy. I am now a top 5 fighter. And more importantly, I'm a top 5 dude who hasn't really fought the other guys. I am at least a new name, even if I've been around. But, he's still below 30. And he's fought Sean Strickland, but he hasn't fought the rest of the top 5. So it's, hey, I can get a fight with Robert Whittaker or Israel Adesanya, something like that, and maybe get myself in position. So I think that they are fighting for a chance for the next fight to be a title eliminator, which isn't a bad place to be. It's just, it's tough, when normally the main event means a little bit more than this weekend. It's one away to being one away.
Do you agree with that, AK? Let's not forget, Brendan Allen is hanging out there just beating everybody at this point. I kind of feel like he's the dude in waiting. Is probably like the best case scenario for either guy right now, unless Allen ends up getting the Vettori fight. But maybe enough time passes that Brendan Allen just awaits sort of the winner of this fight next.
I just had the hilarious thought of Strickland Cannonier 2 happening also inside the Apex, making it the first. Let me tell you, two fight main event series to happen.
Strickland Cannonier 2 UFC Apex 100.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
For a title fight, for a title shot.
Nothing.
We're talking.
Nothing would epitomize the UFC Apex experience more than Strickland Cannonier 2. I do think Strickland is maybe too popular now to be put back in the Apex. I could be wrong. Again, because they've had popular fighters have to compete there before. There's no rule that says. I mean, but I do think they've seen the reaction he gets from live crowds, and you guys know how I feel about him. I'm not a fan. But he has plenty of fans, and he really riles people up. And it almost seems like a huge waste to take that and then like put it back in the UFC Apex. But it would be very, very funny if it happened. Yeah, Jared is. I know we should be talking as much about Imavov as well, but it does feel like Jared is someone who could much easier line up one of these bigger fights. Whoever shakes out of this Khamzat Whitaker Strickland equation, that doesn't get the winner of DDP and Adesanya. And that's even assuming I have this horrible feeling DDP Adesanya will be some super close fight and then they book a rematch. I don't know. But I feel like Cannonier is just a little bit closer. I know what I said earlier about people wanting to see a fresh challenger. But again, Imavov has also he just doesn't have quite that proven record against top 15 competition, while Cannonier, again, he's probably pretty much only fought top 15 competition for the last few years. So yeah, I do think there's a lot on the line. I do think we're pretty spot on with the two away. The top of the middleweight division has been pretty compelling over the last few years. So, nothing's guaranteed. Someone could always leapfrog in. Like you said, maybe a Brendan Allen, maybe a Caio Borralho has a big performance and they push him. There's a Brazil show they got to do. Maybe Shara Bullet, I don't know, makes some mad rush to the top of the charts. It's very possible and just leapfrogs Cannonier or Imavov. But if things play out in a logical way, which they always do in MMA, then whoever wins on Saturday should be talking to their management and talking to the UFC and letting them know that, their plan is to fight for a title soon.
And don't forget, Ikram Alascarov's fighting next week, too.
There you go, another guy.
Be a name. He's going to be a name that's going to be a problem. Bo Nickel's on the come up, so there's going to be a lot of... This division's going to get real salty real quick. So if you're going to make a move, now is the time to do so. Let's make it official, Jed. Nassourdine Imavov, the favorite, minus 125, according to our friends at DraftKings. Jared Cannonier comes back at plus 105. You said you feel like you're probably going to pick Imavov. Is the probably turning into definitely here?
Yeah, I'm picking Imavov. If Cannonier still has some juice, then this will be at least competitive and interesting. Long layoff, coming off the injury, old. I just got to see it. I can't trust that. And Imavov is a big dude who is going to work more than Cannonier, and so it will be up to Cannonier to land kind of fight-altering shots. I mean, he can do that. Certainly, that's kind of how he got the nod from Strickland, just landing more. But I think historically, all of the trends lean towards Imavov, and so I'm backing Imavov by decision for what it's worth.
Okay, Cannonier.
I'm going Cannonier decision. Yeah, I wanted to pick a knockout. I was hoping something's going to give. Cannonier has never been finished at middleweight. I think Imavov has never been KO'd. He might have been submitted once upon a time. Yeah, well, he was submitted once, but never been KO'd. So it does feel highly unlikely that this ends inside the distance. But Imavov was pretty close to finishing Delice in his fight. I feel like Cannonier would have, the way he fought, Vettori, would have knocked out anyone that wasn't named Marvin Vettori, because he cracked him with some bombs. And there was a time when Cannonier was a pretty strong finisher. Then, you raise the level of competition, those knockouts certainly become less frequent. I'll be boring here and say Cannonier by decision, but damn, I'd really like to see one of these guys hurt the other guy and just go for broke and find a finish and really make a statement. Give the people something to talk about on the post-fight show. But if I'm being reasonable and measured, which is my middle name, really, then I have to go Cannonier by decision.
Yeah, I mean, if Cannonier was like fully healthy and like didn't have to come back from a tough injury at the age of 39, 40, I probably would pick Cannonier. But yeah, the youth, just all of that, man, it just catches up to you. As talented and as good as Cannonier has been, I just kind of feel like I'm going with the young buck here. I do not think this will be Brendan Allen, Chris Curtis 2 by any stretch of the imagination. I think it'll be competitive. I don't think it's going to be a fight we're going to go back and watch a second time, but it'll be very chess matchy and things could get a little gritty down the stretch, but I'll go with Imavov to win a decision to close the night off. But I do think this is one of those, it's a close fight. It could go either way. Nothing would really surprise me here, but I will go Imavov based on the youth and Yeah, it's really it. And him not coming off of a pretty significant injury at 40 years of age. So good fight. Looking forward to it. As we mentioned, we do have Dominick Reyes versus Dustin Jacoby. Big one there. We have Raul Rosas Jr. coming back. Now 19-year-old Raul Rosas Jr. taking on Ricky Turcios. Jed, I have to ask you this. I dabble into the picking the ponies for certain cards. In fact, I'll be joining you on No Bets Barred next week. Some breaking news.
Breaking news.
I feel like Raul Rosas Jr. at minus 225 might be the steal of the century, considering that he's fighting Ricky Turcios, who cannot defend a single takedown to save his life.
He's allergic to takedowns. You can't do them. He's not into it. He's opposed. Yeah, I'm on that bet because I also have a bit of a flyer play on Raul Rosas Jr. by KO TKO, just because for situations like this, like the price gets juiced on sub, but just getting a TKO finish with punches on the ground is also like equally as likely. But yeah, I mean, this fight requires no breakdown. Ricky Turcios cannot defend takedowns, and Raul Rosas Jr. is only going to try and do one thing. He's probably going to succeed. So yeah, great matchmaking. I mean, this is how you do it, boys and girls. This is how you build yourself a star. But we know what's about to occur.
Were you going to say something, AK? I'm sorry.
I wanted to raise a question, Mike, but I wasn't sure if you're done. If you want to finish your card rundown, a little rundown there first.
Please, okay. AK, chime in.
I thought about this before when I was trying to come up with, again, anything to talk about this card. Who outside the top three fights, let's go outside the top three fights. I think we can all agree Raul Rosas Jr. is a future UFC Apex main eventer. What a prestigious title. Who outside of the top three fights will eventually main event a UFC Apex card?
It's a great question. Man.
It's tough. It could be. I think you're. No, let's say you have to pick one. You can't say no one. You can't say no one.
I have an
answer.
Can't say
no one. Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's. Let me check to see.
I'll say first time that has not.
I was going to say. Let me check to see if this man has actually done it already.
Because I'm sure everyone's saying Thiago Moises, and they're forgetting that.
I was thinking. I was like, Dustin Jacoby feels like a guy who would main event an Apex.
No, outside the top. Yeah, outside the top three.
Yeah. Outside the top three. Yeah. I mean, there's one clear answer, right? It's got to be Bruno Ferreira because he's at least fun.
Yeah.
Like he just get or get got. So if he just gets a couple of people and then they put him in there against Jared Cannonier or a random middleweight, feels like that could happen.
I can see.
Oh my
man, this is really tough.
There's no one else. maybe Danny Marco, maybe Daniel Marcos.
I could see them chucking in good old Chuck Buffalo into a main event. They like him. They like him. I mean, he's gonna. He.
I don't think you can have a man who's not allowed to speak on a microphone in the main event of an Apex.
Please,
card.
dude. That's perfect for the Apex. That's perfect. That's a perfect Apex headliner right there. They really like him. He speaks his mind. All that stuff. Boy. I mean, in today's UFC, none of these dudes would surprise me being a main eventer. Cody Stamen, once upon a time.
He's too old now for it, but yeah. Taylor Lapilus, maybe. I mean, I know he just lost to a Basharat, but he's still got some shine to him, and losing to a Basharat's not really bad. Not a lot of main event options here.
I'll throw out Eduarda Mora once she gets out of strawweight. I think she just realized maybe she's not a strawweight. Back-to-back weight misses.
She miss weight?
She did half.
That's my girl.
Half a pound this time. The first time 3.5 pounds for her UFC debut. So
yeah,
that's 2 for 2 weight misses. Maybe go to 125. But she's got intrigue. She has finishing power. She's undefeated. So I don't think she'd be the A side. I don't think it'd be like Mora, whatever UFC Apex 104 Mora versus it'll be some veteran we know at flyweight versus Mora. So I'll go Eduarda Mora. I think we'll see her in an Apex main event someday, maybe 2025. But yeah,
I loved her coming off Contender Series, and I love she's cheating. She wasn't a top prospect because she's old, but I was like, she got enough game. She's gonna be good. And then she's coming in, and I'm betting on her, and she's missing weight to give me that extra advantage. That's really, I got to tell you guys, that is the key to gambling, I've decided. Because as a fighter, you are losing money. As just a person betting on them, you actively want your fighters that you've bet on to miss weight because they're just getting more points of edge on them. So way to go, Mara. Love that for you, baby. Let's do the thing on Saturday.
Yeah.
Yes. Bruno Ferreira, Dustin Stoltzfus on the main card, Julian Marquez, Zach Reese on the main card. I don't think either of those fights get to round 2. And then we'll also have Miguel Baeza. He's back. So many people have been asking where he's been. He's fighting Puna Soriano, who drops to welterweight after a tough stretch at 185. Ludovit Klein versus Thiago Moises. A lot of people excited for that. Right. Charles Racky, Carlos Prages. Andrea Lee, Montana De La Rosa. Loser leaves town, one would assume. Brad Katona, huge favorite, nearly minus 700 against Jesse Butler. Daniel Marcos, John Castaneda should be fun. Eduardo Mora versus Denise Gomes. Cody Stamen, Taylor Lapilus. And then curtain jerker, Ryan Dos Santos versus Pooja Tomar. Jed, low-key banger. What's the fight you're looking forward to the most? Whether people are talking about it or not, where are you at?
I mean, we've talked about it a bunch. It's one of 2 fights on this card that got a fart, and it's Thiago Moises, Ludovit Klein. It's the prelim main event for, I think, pretty obvious reasons. Thiago Moises is just awesome. Like, he is a really, really fun fighter. Jose mentioned this on BTL yesterday, but like we've been talking about all week, we talked about it on No Bets Barred this week. He's only lost to hitters, and like he's fought a bunch of hitters, and so that's tough. Like losing to Benoit Saint-Denis and Islam Makhachev and Joel Alvarez and Benny Dariush, like that's everyone loses to those people, so that's no knock on you. And then when you're not doing that, you are just being a really fun, very, very talented fighter. He is like the exact litmus case that I present when I'm like, hey, in just about any other weight class, a dude with this level of skill and ability would be a top 15 fighter. And he can't get there at lightweight because it's just impossible at this weight class. Like, it's so hard to crack into that spot because you might randomly get, Demiris Magulov or whatever. Here's going to be a guy that you have to face. And like, well, that sucks for me, man. He's awesome. And Ludovit Klein has been on like a very, very good run right now. Like, was it like 5, 6 in a row? Something like that. There's a draw tucked in there somewhere, but like a really good run since the Nate Landwehr fight. Like, has been showing that he is improving. He's better. And this is just going to be a good fight. Dudes who can fight in all phases. It will be a competitive lightweight scrap.
Okay.
I actually think because there's so much on the line, I do think the Andrea Lee Montana De La Rosa fight is going to be just a good back and forth, possibly quite bloody brawl. I think we're going to see some damage being done here by these ladies. Montana De La Rosa is like as a finisher. I mean, she it's unfortunate that her we're saying her UFC career is on the line because she's really pretty exciting when she's in there. Andrea Lee, I would say maybe not so much, does tend to go to some uneventful decisions here and there, but she's had some good fights in her career as well. And I do think putting them together is probably the right decision at the stage of their careers. So I'll go with that. I like that one. I had to bring up about Brad Katona being such a monster favorite. It makes sense. Jesse Butler, the last time we saw him, well, weirdly, it was 2 weight classes up. He had to fight. She just jumped in on short notice to fight Jim Miller. He's not a lightweight. He's fighting at 135 in this fight, and unsurprisingly got annihilated in 15 seconds by Jim Miller. So I don't think Jesse Butler is quite that bad, but Brad Katona does have a habit of handling mid to low tier talent pretty easily. Like, that's kind of his, if you look at Brad Katona's record, it's like, yeah, he fights, he's a mid tier guy, but he's like near the top of the mid tier. He's a high tier mid tier guy, if that makes sense. But I am a little shocked that over 1.5 rounds is only minus 450. I guess that has to do with the fact that they think like Butler is that far like beneath Katona as far as like their talent gap goes. But
yeah, I didn't know that. I'll be
Brad Katona.
And I was looking for a third leg of a parlay, and that sounds like I just found it.
He's my fellow Canadian. As I like Brad Katona.
Like I just found that.
He's my fellow Canadian. He does not finish people. He just does not finish people. Jed put a lot of money on over.
I needed a third leg to a parlay, and that was
over 1.5.
Well, I'd say
what's over 1.5?
Shop
like
minus over 1.5 is minus 450.
Minus 450.
Minus 450.
That's shocking to me.
Yeah.
Like any Brad Katona fight over 1.5 should be like minus 1,000. It's just shocking to me. Love the guy. Does not finish fights. He will probably win on Saturday.
Don't mind me. I'm just on our dear friend at DraftKings right now. Please.
So there's one. So there might be one bet I might place on this card. I don't think Cody Stamann should be a plus 225 underdog to Taylor Lapilus. I really don't. I just don't see it. He's fought way better dudes. He's a little older now. He gave Merab a pretty tough fight. And from all accounts, everybody that I've talked to who has like been in the gym with Cody, just like conversationally, just ask them like, who should we watch out for that no one's talking about? Without me even finishing the sentence, it's Cody Stamann unanimously. Like everybody that's training at Extreme Couture right now, I'm like, dude, he's locked in, different cat. Wait to see what he does in the cage. And I just, plus 225 just seems so wide. I feel like there's a ton of value on him at plus 225. So I might pull a trigger on a little Cody Stamann bet at plus 225.
He's kind of
do it.
Like made
I
a
just didn't want to
career.
be involved in any of these people this week. but
If he was like plus
not bad
150, I
thinking.
probably wouldn't do it. But plus 225 seems awful wide for, especially with the level of competition he's fought.
He's also like made a career of being a spoiler kind of. I mean, I know that's kind of how it started. Maybe it's not the way it is now, but I remember. So Tyrion Ware, he was favored there. Tom Duquesnoy, he was definitely the underdog. Alejandro Perez, he was favored. Okay, but I do remember the people definitely having bigger names than him, and him for the most part doing well. I guess that's not the situation here, but yeah, I like your thinking, Mike. I agree. It's a little disrespectful to Cody to be a 2-1 underdog, and Taylor Lapilus is good, but. I will shout out, not for gambling purposes, I'd say we got Pooja Tomar, the first Indian-born woman competing in the UFC, so good for her. Pretty sizable underdog, plus 270, and that makes sense.
She's very not good at fighting.
Listen, I do think, and I think Randa Santos is actually very good at fighting. I know she lost in her debut, but it wasn't like she got smoked or anything. So yes, the odds here I think are fine, are very, very accurate. But I just want
totally reasonable odds.
History in the making.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, history in the making. Don't bet, but I would say tune in, please.
Nope.
If you have a free afternoon, tune in.
Here's the shout out that Pooja deserves, because shout out to her team and her manager, because she did this right. Because if you've ever seen this woman, you saw her getting wailed on in one championship periodically for the last like 4 years, because all she did was lose in one championship. And then clearly they sat her down and were like, hey, this isn't working. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to put you into a place called Matrix Fighting Championship. I've never heard of this. It's fine. You're going to fight stone cold bums. You're going to fight a couple of them real fast and look good, and then we're going to send that highlight reel to the UFC, and suddenly you get to be in the UFC. That's exactly what happened. Credit to her. That's how you manage your career.
Yep, that's good, man. That is very, very good management. And
she came from losing to Stamp Fairtex and fought a 0-0 fighter. Like, that is managing a career.
And guess what? For all time, she'll be the first Indian woman to compete in the UFC.
Yeah.
Win or lose, she doesn't have to win a single. Doesn't matter if Denver wins. She's now in the history books.
No hate here. I love people who know how to work the system. That's what Habib did when everyone's like, Habib had all these cans. Well, actually, he had 1 year where he fought 8 dudes back to back to back because they just wanted to get into the UFC. So, like, fight dudes every other weekend. It doesn't matter if they're bums, because he fought some good people when he was doing the normal progression. And then it was like, here's 7 dudes in 2007 or whatever it was. Kill them all, and then the UFC is going to hire you because you have a 16-0 record.
And that's exactly what happened.
And it worked. That's how you build fighters.
All right. Well, let's take a few questions before we get out of here. I think we've exhausted like all of the relevant storylines here.
We have one super chat, Mike. I don't know if you said it's not a question.
Woo! What's super chat?
We do?
We do.
Man,
or not. Maybe it's not super chat. It is I guess it's a comment from a member. I don't know how these things work. Where's Casey?
Yeah,
it's not a super chat. It's a.
Can we pour one out?
Sato's just said wearing my Jed Hart's Cannonier shirt to the event. There you go.
Nice.
Nice.
Loves Cannonier. Oh, there's one, Mike.
I just don't want to talk
one?
about it is all.
I don't think it's a good question, but it is.
I mean, I'm not gonna read this, but
Well, I didn't.
it's a question about the just fine promotional work that Joaquin Buckley and Jamal Hill have been doing over the past few weeks. Jed, who's been worse? Joaquin Buckley or Jamal Hill?
Again, so we talked about this at the very end of yesterday. There is a world where what Jamal Hill was trying to execute this week was a good idea. Poorly executed, but a good idea of it seems like 303 might be in trouble. Maybe if I talk a little bit of greasiness, I can get a rematch with Alex Pereira, who will jump in to save the card. If that was the kernel of the idea, it's a good idea. Wildly miscalculated his handling of this, but there's at least that. I don't understand. I mean, I understand them. They are just fundamentally bad ideas and poor execution from Joaquin Buckley. I will not defend Jamal Hill's comments because I think they're very silly. Joaquin Buckley coming for Cub Swanson was not on my bingo card for 2024 and shouldn't have been on anyone's bingo card because it's a very, very silly thing to do. He gains nothing for it but looking like, at best, he looks like a bully to a beloved 145er. And at worst, he looks like an idiot because he says a bunch of factually inaccurate stuff. And that's the route he went, by the way, because I don't know, guys, Cub Swanson has been ranked and actually was ranked much higher than you've ever been ranked, Joaquin Buckley. So Buckley is doing by far a worse job.
It's just been tough for the Michigan boys right now.
Jed is right, I think, as far as fight relevance trash talk. But Hill definitely loses for the weird. I've got 20K. Come down to the gym. Whoever's criticizing. I don't know. Maybe I didn't watch the video. Was he saying just come down? Anyone come down? Spar with me and like get in the cage with me, and I'll give you $20,000 or something like that. Because
he made another video to clarify.
I'll go get my ass.
Yeah, I was like,
I'll give a fuck. That's fine.
What was the clarification, Mike?
Like you got to go in there and do work against him.
What does that mean?
If you beat it, like I guess if you beat him, you get $20,000.
Oh, you have to beat him. Okay.
Yeah.
But I'm like, how do you not make that clear the first time? Because that's a good clarification for him to make. That's not how the internet works. Just like me, I only saw the first video. I only heard about the first thing. I guarantee you 90% of the people who are aware of this stunt that Jamal Hill tried are only aware of the first part. They don't care about the clarification. It sounded stupid just offering any random Jamal.
It sounds stupid even if it's you have to beat me.
What does
because
it
I don't
prove?
know if you understand this. You being better at fist fighting than me does not mean my opinions are incorrect.
Jamal, I mean, listen, on the list of dumbass things that Jamal has said, this doesn't even probably make the top 10, but it is recent and it is just continuing a string of stupidity. So I hated. So I'll give the point, I guess, to Jamal here. We're giving points. We had a discussion on the rankings show about most annoying fighters right now, pound for pound, and Jamal and Buckley are just battling it out at the top. Just really, it's fluctuating.
Poor Henry Cejudo can't keep up anymore.
No, I'm sad.
I know.
I do want to take Jamal Hill's thing and I just want to bite it. And I'd be like, I will challenge any man who is talking shit about me in the comments to a spelling bee for $6,000. And if I win, then you need to shut up. Because my ability to spell clearly means that what I have to say is more relevant. It's just the most childish shit I've ever heard.
It's too bad, too, because he was the MVP of UFC 300 fight week. He made that fight way more interesting. And
it could all been fine.
It just, yeah, would have all been fine if he's just like, yeah, man, I lost. Even I know how much you hated the Dare to Be Great thing, but even if he was just like, Dare to Be Great, hats off, Pereira,
at least live with it.
You win.
Yeah, I can at least live with that, even if I hate it. But like, it has always baffled me how much people have stolen from Conor and Chael and just like, I'm going to do this bit and not gotten the full bore of the gimmick. Because both Conor and Chael, when they have lost, have been unbelievably classy about it. Like, both immediately and later, like, then they might change their tune a little bit. But it has always been, hey, man, better guy beat me. I'll show up to the press conference and talk even in defeat because, like, that's the business. That's what is done. And so many people want to do I'm going to hype this fight up and then don't want to follow through on that point. And it's so frustrating. They're like, do it, but just do all of it.
And what the other thing that makes Hill worse is like we know Hill is a really good fighter. Like I think Buckley's good too. I think Buckley's good, but we know Hill has like he's beaten someone in the top 5. Teixeira was the champion.
He's the champ. He won the freaking title.
Well, I mean, he wasn't the champ. It was the vacant title. But Teixeira was at worst one of the top 3 ranked light heavyweights in the world at the time. You know, so we know that Hill has that upside. Now, Buckley maybe down the road will too. We don't know, but he hasn't proven it yet. Hill is just so irritating because he's a good fight, and his fights are exciting. Like as much as it sucked to see him beat up Glover, like it wasn't a bad fight. It was an
awesome fight. It was an unbelievable performance.
I was rooting for Glover all the way, but Hill beat his ass, and it was a really good fight. I would rewatch that fight. I mean, it's a very good fight. And so for him to like throw away so much goodwill with this weird, just turd burglar attitude of his is like so frustrating to see. So. It's getting him attention. I understand this is the game, like you said, Jed. Everyone wants to have their own sort of McGregor weird edge thing, and they just don't do it right. But a lot of them feel like it's getting them more attention than they would otherwise. Maybe we're talking about Jamal Hill more than when he was just winning fights. I know that's not the case with us specifically. I think if you go back to shows when Jamal Hill was up and coming, we were all saying like, this guy's a future champion. This guy's exciting. Like we liked Jamal Hill. We really did. You can go watch a show where I preview or do a post-fight show I'm on after Jamal Hill fight. I know there's at least one where I'm like, this guy absolutely could be a top 5 guy. This guy could be a champion. And now I just don't feel like talking about that aspect of him at all because of all the other stuff.
This is not the attention you want, though. Like this is X-Pac heat. This is turning the channel heat. You don't want that. Like this is not what you want. Buckley is like turn the channel heat right now. Jamal Hill is getting there too. And let me tell you something. If he goes out and gets dusted up by Carlos Ulberg, which is very possible on June 29th, he's effed. Like he is in deep, deep trouble in this division.
I'm going to look like a genius if that happens.
Are you calling it?
Yeah.
No, I've just I said after the Glover fight, I was pretty consistent. That was such an outlier, unbelievable performance that I can't help thinking Cody Garbrandt. Where Cody Garbrandt was good, and then his performance against Dominick Cruz was so outside of the realm of expectation because it was so unbelievable, and then he never got there again. I was like, kind of feels like maybe Jamal Hill might be that dude. And we got a long way, and that could be not the case.
Sure.
But if he loses to Ulberg, we're working on it. AK, one thing off what you said though. The fundamental difference between these two individuals is that Buckley, I believe, is trying to do this. This is Buckley trying to get famous. I think this is just Hill being himself, but he who he is this very deep down. And he is personally offended by comments on the internet, which is a really bad way to live your life. But I comped him yesterday, and I have thought about this overnight, and I think it's absolutely on the money. Jamal Hill is just John Jones if John Jones lost. If John Jones wasn't as good. Because this is exactly how John would react for everything that's happened in the same way. Because we see how John reacts when good things happen. They're just the same kind of person in that regard. Into what they take as slights and how they view it, and being very online. And it's not good. It's not good to be too online. I encourage everyone to get offline more.
Yes. It's been tremendously helpful to me this year. I'm barely online for anything. Celtics games, I might retweet something or just throw one thing up. I'm not on there tweeting every 5 seconds. I just can't do it. I got to stay away. Joseph Bosa had 2 questions. We'll go with this one because we already answered the other one. If Dominick Reyes loses, that's 5 in a row. Is he a name that Dana keeps, or is there talks about his future if Dustin Jacoby wins?
I think you or Jed said it earlier that it's not the UFC that's going to need to talk to him. Maybe his friends and family and his team need to, but it's so weird because I get it. We talk about things in MMA years more than their actual years because 34 is old for an athlete.
Young for light heavyweight. He's in great shape still, right? I mean, it's the chin we're all worried about for sure. It's maybe the reflexes have lost a step, which again, you can't really afford to do when you're dealing with heavy hitters in this division. It's part of me wants to say that this time off, and now this will be 18 months or something like that, has been so good for him. Because as far as I know, he didn't have a notable injury, right? He's just been taking time off, right? And that's something we always we always wish fighters had the luxury to do. So if that's the case, and it's not health or some other things going on in his life that has kept him out of the cage,
then this is a good thing. Maybe he really is resting, recovering mentally, physically, just getting whatever you can, like regenerate of that chin. Like it never comes back all the way, but maybe it can help him. And then who knows? Maybe he can rattle off another like 7 or 8 UFC fights. I don't know. A 5th loss would be extremely troubling. It's so weird to say that he's just like done. But yes, how can he and his family and his team not have that conversation after? So I think the decision will more come down on his side than the officials.
He's had some blood clots.
I thought he was injured after the Yuri fight, but I can't recall because I know he had a big layoff after that one. I thought that was because he got hurt in that fight, but
I mean the blood clots were why the Carlos Ulberg fight fell apart.
I thought that was an Ulberg injury, or was it both of them? Oh, wait, it got rescheduled. It was Ulberg, then him. Yes, that's
dude. The Yuri one was just bad, man. Like that was one of the scariest knockouts I've ever seen.
Yeah,
that was my knockout of the year that year, and that was coincidentally enough. I think I was the only one who had that. That was my fight of the year that year as well. That fight. If you guys have never seen Dominick Reyes versus Yuri Prochazka, I know if you're newer fans and you hear that fight now, it probably scares you a little bit. And boy, does the ending scare you. But before that ending happens, it is fire. It is fire. Those two beat the shit out of each other.
Guys, is this actual Tom Aspinall in our chat? Because Tom, if you are here watching, I want to be really clear. There's been no bigger stan of you than me. So
no way.
Be on top of it. I mean, I can't speak whether that's true or not. It's Tom Aspinall official.
It is 100% not Tom Aspinall.
That's definitely not him.
Could be Tom Aspinall official.
I checked.
Tom Aspinall went on the Mixed Martial Arts Hour, the most important program in all of MMA. Was in studio with Ariel Helwani and said once his fight camp begins, once his fight is announced, he will not be on social media. He will not be on YouTube. Yeah, he will not be texting anybody. Oh yeah, that's
this is us. You know, like
it's just like chill. Yeah,
it's like when
it's just like the real Beavis and Butthead are here. The real Chael P. Sonnen is here. I mean, all the celebs somehow are in our chat right now.
I know this is the real Brandon QFG. This better be the Brandon QFG. This better be the real you. Otherwise,
I see Cross. Cross, love to have you here, man.
The real. I hope this is the real Cross.
It's the best.
There you go. There's Jed's arch nemesis, Aspinall with 2 L's. How about that?
Love it, Tommy Aspinall.
And an A in the
mostly I was just trying to not talk about Dominick Reyes because it'll be like he is I honestly think the only fighter I've ever pity rooted for. Like I don't have a huge emotional connection to Dominick Reyes. I don't frankly care one way or another what occurs in his fights, but like I desperately want him to win just for some semblance of life to be okay for him. Because when you think about it, this man should have gotten the win over John Jones. His legacy, whatever happened afterwards, should forever be, I'm the guy who beat John Jones. He was robbed of that and then hasn't won a fight since. That is so disheartening in such a like significant way that despite me not being like a Dominick Reyes fan or honestly caring, I really want him to beat Dustin Jacoby just because he like deserves something good to happen to him.
Yeah. See, you want to talk about the quality of the card and the stakes? There's like no questions about this.
No, I sent out another call for questions and
all right. I'm going to throw this one up there.
Yeah, why not?
I often hear MMA journalists need to keep it professional when giving their takes. When did Jed decide to say F that and start giving spicy takes on the regular like his Ortega hate? Now, here's a couple things I want to say. One, I feel like as an entity, we are the most like objective and honest crew. Like if something is bad, we're going to tell you it's bad. If it's great, we're going to tell you it's great. That's just the way that it is. Not everything is great. Just like in every other bit of sports coverage. If the Thursday night football game sucks, we're probably going to tell you that it sucks, as will they. But that's besides the point. We're here to tell you what we know, and we're here to be honest with you. We're not here to be phony balonies. There are some people who will do that. We are not going to do that. We're going to keep it 100. The other thing I will say, and I'll let Jed respond to this, as long as I have been here, Jed never said F that and started giving spicy takes. Dude dropped spicy takes on the reg. It's always been that way. Some things have built up Ortega, Stipe, Michael Chandler, etc. But you've always
start to just become gimmicks.
Yeah. But BTL, like your first appearance on BTL, I immediately was like, all right, he's going to be here every week. Because this is what we needed. We need somebody. Yeah, you're never missing a show, and I think you've been on 187 times since. Yeah. So I guess talk about, like, was there an F that moment, or has it just always been like this for you?
So I just have two related answers, and one is I actually think I am professional still. I agree. Like I am not buttoned up, in that way, and that's kind of sort of how I've always been. But like I try and draw pretty clear lines of, I don't like make personal attacks on who fighters are as humans, other than to say like generically Michael Chandler sucks, but I'm not like, I try to keep at least some level of professionalism in there where I am just saying my opinion on stuff and not like running someone down as a human being, unless frankly they deserve it. So I do think that there is like a line that I have pretty clearly in my mind on what I would and wouldn't do. But mostly the answer is like, I agree that I am not historically professional, or however you want to phrase this. Like I am not like the general concept of that, but I've never wanted to be or cared to be that, because this isn't like I'm just trying to like live a gimmick or be Stephen A. Smith. I don't know. Like I don't want to work for ESPN, or like if they want to pay me a bunch of money, I'll work for anyone. But like, that's not how I interact with the sport. And so it would be weird to come on like these programs and be very buttoned up and mind my P's and Q's, because I view this as, you guys are legitimately my friends outside of our work thing, but I view this as an extension of the way I would interact with my friends about sports and stuff. Like it is toned down a little bit. I don't say the same jokes I would say with my buddies out on the golf course or whatever. Like that is kind of the professional line, but this is still a fun thing that we are doing. And I want to interact with people in the sport like this, like a real human being, and not like a newscaster, because I'm not a newscaster. And so that's kind of just where I've always been, is I have thoughts and I'm going to say it. And sometimes I'll turn the thoughts up to 11. And sometimes if something's hitting, then maybe that does become a gimmick. And maybe I offhandedly one time said Michael Chandler sucks because I was feeling that. And now that's just like part of my personality. And I'm okay with that. But like, that's just kind of where it is, because you guys answered this the other day on your Q&A for On to the Next One. And I loved your answers about like hey, I want to get into MMA and this is what I want to do. And what advice would you give me? And as I was listening to it, are kind of the thing that I thought, and that I have given when people have asked me, is you just got to just be yourself and be as much of yourself as possible, because it's like you're never going to succeed in this business, and you're never going to succeed in life in general. It's just really hard to like climb the ladder of anything. And so just do you, and do you to the maximum. And then even if you don't find your community and people gravitate to you, you can still be happy with what you have done and produced. And that's it. Like I like that there are people who like, my thoughts and the way that things happen. But if everyone tomorrow was like, that dude sucks and I hate him, but that's fine. I had fun. And that's because that's the thing that matters most.
Boom. Nailed it. Completely agree. Well said. I'll take a couple more. Jed, Mike, and AK. Question. How long before the UFC is completely out of the Apex for good?
Oh.
Excited for this Louisville crowd.
Oh, Forrest.
Yeah. AK, over, under, never.
Over, under, never. Way.
Take the over.
Over. I was saying.
Way
what does
over.
that mean? Over. Okay, yeah. Duration of time. Way over. It's just that there's just no reason for them not to use it, as long as they plan to do. Eventually, they're going to want to do 52 weeks a year. And the Apex is going to be, but they'll probably want to do more than 52. You know what? Probably do more than 52 cards a year. Eventually, they'll start wedging in, not even kind of contender series. I mean, more than 52 UFC cards a year. And they're going to need that Apex to just keep trotting these bodies in and out and getting those broadcast deals. And yeah, they're never going to leave it. It just, the operating cost is just so low compared to, again, the benefits of having it available and what they can do in there. if you're a business person, it just makes too much sense to keep it. So it's never going away.
We're going to get less of it, but it's never going away.
The man who's wrong most of the time, Achilles Jr. just adding
this
to
cracked me up. I saw it and I chuckled. I was like,
Mavs in 6, Jed
guys.
sucks, Mike sucks, this card sucks. I mean,
I didn't
way
get
to
anything on that.
use
that's efficiency.
10 words perfectly. I mean,
That
well
is
done.
Yeah, that's true.
efficiency.
That is true. That is true.
Least
Mavs in
posting.
6, no, it's just not happening, guys. Like, it's just not
Last
happening.
night wasn't inspiring for that bet.
No, the Celtics like played well. They played pretty well for 3 quarters, but they still haven't played great. They still haven't. And the Mavs just don't have the depth.
60 at half. That's pretty good, man.
It was solid.
The
It was
Celtics team
solid.
is so
was
talented. It's so
solid.
talented. It's so
It was
well built. It's upsetting.
Yeah, it was
It
Habib.
aggravates me. Yeah.
It was Habib Al Quinta. That's what it was. They took the third. They literally took a quarter off, and still won by double digits against a team that can score.
I never root for the Celtics, but I'm rooting for Al Horford. Also,
Yeah.
Al Horford, I met him in real life by accident once, and just an obnoxiously large human being.
There's no way that the Dallas Mavericks can beat the Celtics team 4 out of 7 times. It's just not
I'd
possible.
be shocking, barring like a plane crash that kills like half the Celtics team. That's about it. I honestly don't see how they even win.
AK, you should
more than
not
one game.
put that into the world.
I hate Boston, so it's fine. So I'm not gonna do it.
It was
People
that was
have
the best.
families, AK.
That I will say this, it was the best. That was the best game they played all postseason for sure. Even though they took off the third quarter, that was the best game they played all postseason.
They could have been up. What were they up after the first quarter? Like 19 or something like that. They could have been up like 17. They could have been up like 25. Like they.
Oh yeah,
they,
at half,
they missed
being
open,
up.
They missed open
yeah.
shots. Like I'm like, this is nothing that I saw in that game. And I'm not saying that like every game's different, but like that the Mavericks can win the series. There's no way. There's almost no way. If both teams are healthy, there's just no way.
Boy, Reggie Howe is a hater, man. Good Lord. He is a Mavs fan, so salty and angry.
Mavs fans,
He might not be a Mavs fan. He's just
That Luka just
doesn't like
played his
Boston.
heart out last night, and it just wasn't good enough, man. Just wasn't good
Because
enough.
You guys are just
can't
the
beat him
worst
alone.
Winners. You're the worst
I
winners
know.
of all time.
This is. I'm with you. I'm with Jed.
Listen, they're gonna
Like-
win it. Just get used to
Oh,
it.
they're gonna win.
Oh, I don't have to watch it.
That's fine. No, I watched the first quarter and then bailed because like this game is over.
Yeah, I watched like a half.
Useless.
I watched a half, and that was about it.
It's tremendous, man. Like it was solid. It
Ugh.
was solid.
It's just way more fun to watch Boston people wallow in failure. And when you get the Celtics to get one, then you don't have to be sad anymore. And it's much more enjoyable. Like one of my best friends is from Boston. And I got to tell you, I don't believe it. Like Tom Brady is unequivocally the GOAT of football. Like it's not up for debate. It's deeply fun to watch him have an existential crisis every time Patrick Mahomes is in the Super Bowl. It is the most fun I have all year. I've just been like, I got it pretty good. Look at him. Tom couldn't scramble around back there like that and just lose his mind. It's
It's the
quite
best.
fun to watch Boston
I was
lose.
like,
So
I
it
hope
wouldn't
I'm
be the
wrong.
worst. If the
Yeah,
Mavs
go
win.
Mavs. Go Mavs. I hope
Yeah,
I'm
look,
wrong.
No, I want Al to
Dude,
get his.
realistically,
Horford needs a ring, but it
Yeah.
would be fun.
Horford does, dude. Al Horford definitely deserves a ring.
Oh,
I have to
Horford
say, and I'll
deserves a
be
ring.
completely honest with the world. Someone had asked me this on Heck of a Morning, and I stand by it. If I could get one, whether it be the Celtics or the Bruins winning one, I would have picked the Bruins. I would have picked the Bruins this year.
Why? Were they just better? Were they better than the Celtics?
Yeah,
Maybe
it's just.
I
I mean, I just like. I love all my teams, but it's Red Sox, Patriots, Bruins, Celtics. Like I love the Bruins, man.
But they
I
all
really do.
always win. Didn't the Bruins? They've won a Stanley Cup in the last decade, haven't they? It hasn't been that long since the last
It
one.
was.
Am I crazy? I don't know
It
about
was like
hockey.
over a decade ago.
What was
We haven't
the
won in so long. It's only been
2011.
it's only been like it's like
Oh,
You know, that's
I'm just
Boston
kidding.
people really
River.
love
Just
that
kidding.
joke.
I'm just kidding.
Pioneer
I'm just kidding.
River. 2011.
Dude,
Oh, no.
look, we are spoiled. Like, trust me.
Our
I
hockey
tell my
team left for Winnipeg.
I tell
Thrashers
my wife.
forever. Thrashers forever.
I tell
Thrashers games are fun as shit. Now they're in Winnipeg.
See, you guys are all saying like how like I am as a Boston fan. If this was me on MMA Fighting doing a live show like this 10 years ago, the energy levels would be a million times higher. I would be insufferable right now. I would be insufferable. Win, lose.
Yeah.
Like I would have to be banned from shows every time a Boston team is in the postseason. Like it would just be awful. So just be happy that my life, like where I rank these sporting events, is nowhere near as high as it once was. Because it was bad. I was that asshole that you all hated.
I mean, we
I
all
was
know.
that guy.
We all had them in our for not a very large city. Boston seems to have birthed 10 billion people because everyone has Boston friends in their friend group.
Yeah. Even
but see,
they're pervasive. You're a very weird species.
Yeah, but see, then you got Maine, New Hampshire, even like parts of Connecticut, Rhode Island. They all claim Boston.
All of the people I know from like that are Sox, Pats fan, they're all actually from Boston, and it really boggles my mind how a small city can export
it's pretty
that
big.
many massholes.
Mike,
I mean, I see it.
We see it. And I think this would be a good question to sign off on because we should be. We should be answering this every day, right? I think we need daily updates because I don't know.
We answered, then we can put it in the headline.
Yeah, sure.
UFC Louisville preview show. Does Conor McGregor fight Michael Chandler? UFC 303.
You could do a lot worse. You could do a lot worse.
I'm open to that being the headline.
Conor released some training footage late Wednesday evening. That could be. We don't know when that's from. Honestly, that could have been from like 2 weeks ago. We don't know. But there's training footage out there. Obviously, he and his team know what they're doing. They're just trying to, whet people's appetites, maybe convince them that the fight's still happening. It probably will, but the whole lack of explanation from him and from the UFC is so bizarre. It's not bizarre. I'm sorry. It's not bizarre. It's actually typical. But it is frustrating. It doesn't make it easier to take. I am honestly strongly leaning towards the fight not happening on the 29th, but that's just a gut feeling. I have no inside information. It's not based on anything particular that I've seen from or not seen. But I think I'm leaning towards no.
I've now come all the way around. When we did the ranking show, I was 60-40 that it would happen. After that, I was like, it just started looking way less likely. And then I was of the opinion that the reason everything has been so quiet is because they are trying to find a solution so they can never present your boss with a problem, present your boss with a problem and the solution for that problem. And I was like, that's what they're trying to do here. And then I've come all the way back around. I am like 85% that this fight is still going to happen.
Okay.
So, both because Ariel, has said that he's very positive and just kind of the energy feels like this fight is going to happen. And maybe one day we'll get to know why all of this weirdness happened for this week. Maybe it was all a clever ruse to get us talking about something other than the lackluster Louisville card. But I'd love to know what happened. I assume that one day we will get that information, but I feel pretty confident we're getting it the fight now.
Yeah, guys. You know what's going to happen. If Dana White shows up in Louisville, which, by the way, if the Celtics had lost last night, I would have completely blamed Dana White because I think he's like 0-116 going to Celtics playoff games. So
that's not a good resume.
Yeah,
let's sort of GoFundMe. And
as soon as I saw him in the crowd, I'm like, shit, they're going to blow this lead and they're done because he is a jinx in these situations. But I'm telling you, like, Ariel laid it out perfectly. If Dana is asked about this at the UFC Louisville post-fight press conference, he's going to say something to the effect of, don't listen to the media. It's bullshit. You didn't hear from us. They're just drumming up stuff to get their fucking clicks. Like, that's what he's going to say, even though we kind of know what's going on.
I'm going to pre-write that
The media's
post.
pretty clearly not even said anything.
We said nothing.
The media said that the press conference was canceled, which is an objective fact.
Postponed.
Yes.
Postponed.
Sorry,
as if
postponed,
they're
yes.
going to reschedule, which there's no way you can
We're
reschedule.
gonna fly
that.
Michael
It's way too
Chandler
close.
during his weight cut to do.
Here we go. Here's a good comment. Here's a good comment. To end the show
Achilles
on,
Jr. would rather see Bilal Muhammad become a double champion than see Boston win.
Mike. We'd all want
That
that.
would be
Who wouldn't want
objectively
that?
funny.
Yeah, who
but
wouldn't want that?
No one wants that.
Everyone wants
That's
that.
pretty.
That'd be a big
I think
funny.
Bilal's going to beat Leon. I think I'm selling myself on that.
You might.
It would
you
be.
Really?
I'm selling myself
might.
on Bilal.
You're selling yourself on it? You don't want to regret
mean,
it, Jed.
The fight's going to be just the worst watch you've ever seen. Like, it's going to be very close. 12 strikes a round per person.
Leafy greens, as you laid it out.
But it's important.
Lazy bed with
Good
the
for
message.
digestion.
Dear Jed, see you next week. Sincerely, Landscaper.
Ladies and
Love
gentlemen,
that.
was you with the YouTube video. That was some A+ shit yesterday.
That was great stuff. Great stuff. Guys, one championship as an event. They're still around.
Is that
at least
happening
for a little
like
while
now?
longer. Is that going on right now?
I don't
Yeah,
know
think
when
it's
that
happening
happens.
Yeah,
I
it's
think
happening right
I
now,
think
yeah.
it's today. So.
Ryzen's got a card coming up like late Saturday night. NXT
Okay.
is at the world's most famous Apex
Yes.
for Battleground.
No,
about
KSW
that?
is happening right now.
Oh,
One
KSW is
Build the
happening right
One
freeze.
is
now.
tonight.
Bill
Bill
DeFreeze,
DeFreeze.
Augusto Sakai. Let's go.
Oh God. We'll have a People's Pre-Fight show tomorrow, 30 minutes before UFC Louisville, post-fight show, all that stuff. AK and I. Oh no, you're not going to be here, AK, are you? Bronson
Not
actually
this
this
weekend.
week.
No. That's right. So, Jed, you signed up for on to the next one duty on Sunday, or wait?
Wow,
I mean, I'm actually working Sunday morning, so sure.
Maybe. There
right.
you go.
Jed and I will do some matchmaking, and then yeah, we'll get ready for the UFC's return to the world's most famous Apex. That's Tyra versus Alex Perez. So for AK, for Jed, I am Mike Heck. Hopefully Casey's back next week or tomorrow. Good night, everybody.
Love y'all.